In the previous lecture, we created two buttons inside of the main page. One is navigating us over to the login page, and from the login page we created a login button that is throwing an exception when being clicked, a normal exception. We have created a new exception and are throwing it. The main page is also navigating us over to the new book page. From the new book page we also have another button, a save button, which is calling a method from the book class that we also created. And that method is currently generating a test crash with the help of the crashes class that exists inside of the Microsoft.AppCenter.crashes namespace. So let's take a look at exactly what is being reported and learn how is it that we can do something similar with this exception that we ourselves are throwing. So for that, I am going to navigate over to App Center, where I have, of course, the two applications that I have created. Currently, I have only run my application on an Android device, so my iOS project will have absolutely nothing. If I navigate over to Diagnostics, I see just nothing, just a quick start guide in here. But if I navigate over to the Android application, the one that I've actually already ran, and navigate over to Diagnostics, I already see some information. One actual crash has already happened. The one that is being generated by the generate test crash method that App Center provides to us. So let's explore this a little bit and learn how we can create our own report with our own exceptions. So for example, right here from the All section, we of course see these couple of charts showing us the amount of crashes and the amount of errors. So far we only have crashes. Eventually we will learn about errors and we will see some errors in here as well. And down below in the groups we just see one element, one single type of crashes that has been reported. And you see the amount of times this has happened, in this case just once, I've only run my application once, the amount of users that has experienced this, what version of the application they were running, a last report, how long ago this happened, and a status. A status is actually going to help us as a team of developers to track how are we handling these reportings. Maybe we set something to still be open and eventually we close it once we have solved this issue and the application has been deployed to our users without this bug. Now let's select this item and see what else we can find in here. For one, we find the stack trace, very helpful to identify exactly where this happened. In our case, we see that it was generated in this line, the line that calls the generate test crash. Of course, we knew that. But in a more robust application, this is going to be more and more helpful. Before this method was called, the save book method was called. And it was called after we had clicked the save button. And you can see a little bit more about this stack trace to understand exactly what the user was doing, how the user navigated throughout the application. So in here you can see how first they clicked a menu item, and the menu item in this case was simply the menu item or the toolbar item that we have on the main page. So this is that menu item. Of course, in this case, it's being displayed as an Android item because we are on the Android application, but this refers to that button. And actually, let me show you the one that I'm referring to, the one that is in the toolbar items section in the main page, this add button, which we know is the one that navigates the user over to the new book page. And actually in here we see that the new book page was activated and then another menu item was clicked. In this case, the save button menu item, the toolbar item. And from there, the save book was called and the generate test crash was called. So we understand exactly what the user did throughout the application that generated this crash. And we see the amount of reports for this particular bug and what devices are being affected. Of course, in here, you may not see emulator, but maybe a Samsung device, an HTC device, an LG device, I don't know, the list of devices where this is happening. The operating systems, the versions of Android that are experiencing this error and the amount of affected users through time. For example, right now, in the last 30 days, 100% of the users have experienced this issue. Of course, we only have one user, so this makes sense. And then if we navigate over to reports, we see indeed this device where this happened, which of course is only one, and we see a little bit more information about it. When was it launched, the application, in which country, the device, the network, and importantly, after how many seconds of using the application did the crash happen. So apparently we used the application for 47 seconds before the crash happened. The language of the device, the operating system, the threads, the events, attachments, if any. We're going to see a little bit more about this eventually. But you can see how powerful App Center is. We didn't have to add any more functionality, and it even knows how many seconds passed from where the application was launched. By the way, they do have the time at which the application was launched and when the application crashed. So very powerful App Center in this case. I can even, of course, download as JSON or as text the report for this bug. And as I have mentioned before, I can change the status of this crash, either if it's opened, if it's closed, or if we're just going to be ignoring it. Now let's figure out how is it that we can create our own report or send a report about a specific crash to App Center. This again is a test crash, one that App Center is generating for us. So let's now actually generate our own. I am going to be navigating back to Visual Studio, and I want this to happen from the App Center helper. So I want everything App Center related to exist within a different class. So I am going to first and foremost create a new class that is going to be the App Center helper. Again, normally you may have some folder structure inside of this project. For now, I'm just going to be creating it directly in the root for the .NET Standard library. And in here, I will create, for now, just one method. And this method is going to be the one that tracks errors. So I am going to be calling, this is, by the way, going to be public. This is going to be static. I don't need an instance of App Center to call this. And it is going to be track error. And for now, all it is going to ask for is an exception. And to track this exception, all we have to do is access crashes. Of course, we need the using directive to be able to use this class. And the crashes has a track error method that is actually also going to request an exception. And notice that it also requests optionally a dictionary of strings. For now, I'm just going to be passing the exception. And by